The linear capitalism operating system we rely on has a fatal bug. We are at the end of easily accessible resources, and the accumulation of waste is hitting strict physical limits.
Right, and today we're looking at whether this is a temporary hurdle or, a thermodynamic bankruptcy, because I argue we are not facing total failure.
The global economy is operating on a ridiculous fantasy of an infinite credit limit. It pretends that infinite exponential growth can occur on a finite planet. Earth is essentially a closing diner, where the customers are burning the chairs they are sitting on just to cook one final steak.
I mean, that doomsday framing completely ignores the entirety of human history, though. Resources are strained, obviously, but the system is fundamentally sound.
The universe's tax collector, the second law of thermodynamics, is handing humanity the physical receipt for our externalized environmental costs. Our current macroeconomic structure is in total cascading failure. Shifting immediately to circular capitalism is the only mathematically viable path to survival.
But we possess unparalleled accelerating technological innovation. We are not just burning chairs, we are deploying next-generation material science to engineer entirely new, infinitely renewable structures.
Technology is an illusion when divorced from physical reality. Modern civilization is an ultra-high-performance AI-equipped robot that has thrown away its manual and its charger.
Wait, we have advanced artificial intelligence currently mapping new resource veins. We have grid-scale battery storage approaching commercial viability. We don't need to forcibly dismantle the economic engine that built the modern world. Technology will bridge this gap.
You place your faith in artificial intelligence to solve a physical resource crisis, completely ignoring the thermodynamic cost of that intelligence. Artificial intelligence is nothing but a smart paperweight without baseload electricity and physical metals.
It is precisely that AI that will map the structural optimizations we need. Advanced computing models like deep learning are already synthesizing millions of theoretical crystal structures for next-generation solid-state batteries.
You cannot code away the laws of physics. Training a single massive neural network consumes gigawatt-hours of power. It requires vast amounts of fresh water for cooling data centers.
But the software optimizes the hardware. AI can maximize supply chain efficiencies, drastically reduce waste in global shipping, and discover synthetic substitutes for whatever rare earth minerals are running low. We use the computational power to minimize the energy footprint while maximizing the yield.
Software cannot manufacture matter. Optimization is entirely irrelevant when the physical inputs drop to zero. You are attempting to optimize a system that is fundamentally starving.
It's not starving, it's just...
When the diner runs out of meat, a highly optimized cooking algorithm does not magically manifest a steak. The extraction of those rare earth minerals you want AI to optimize relies on diesel-powered heavy machinery tearing up the Earth's crust.
Yes, but with better extraction methods.
It requires a massive influx of fossil fuels to move millions of tons of raw ore just to extract a few pounds of usable material. You are relying on a thermodynamic black hole to save you from a thermodynamic collapse. The physical reality of the universe demands energy to create order out of chaos.
Look, if the private market's technological innovations cannot solve the deficit fast enough, the state will step in. The state possesses the macroeconomic authority to manage resource flows.
We are running a massive physical energy deficit, and no software patch can rewrite the second law of thermodynamics. And your reliance on the state is equally flawed. The state is running on a dead operating system.
Individuals and private companies cannot unilaterally rebuild the electrical grid. We rely on sovereign governments to execute macro-level infrastructure overhauls.
The state derives its power from fiat currency, which is entirely backed by the promise of infinite future economic growth. That growth requires infinite physical resources. Therefore, the state is bankrupt in the only currency that matters, which is physics.
The state has the authority to mandate resource allocation. They can issue massive subsidies for small modular reactors, fund commercial nuclear fusion research, and build smart energy grids.
Waiting for the state to fix this is like living in a smart home with fallen power lines outside.
We have to lean on the collective financial power of the state to transition.
The national government promises to fix the grid using printed money, while inside your house, your smart refrigerator is throwing error codes, desperately trying to order groceries over a dead network, consuming your last battery reserves.
The state is the only entity capable of organizing a transition on a global scale.
Suggesting a man burning his own house's walls to stay warm should wait for the city to deliver firewood is absurd. He must physically rebuild his insulation himself. He must enact a forced physical downgrade from ownership to maintenance.
Downgrade? People are not going to just abandon their quality of life.
The linear capitalist model demands you extract virgin materials to manufacture a new washing machine every 5 years and throw the old one in a landfill. That is a thermodynamic liability.
Which is why we recycle.
Circular capitalism is not recycling. It is a fundamental decoupling of economic value from material throughput. It mandates that individuals and corporations abandon the concept of disposable ownership and transition entirely to the maintenance of repairable physical assets.
You're talking about dismantling consumerism entirely.
The manufacturer retains ownership of the physical chassis and simply leases the mechanical service to the user. They design the machine to last a century because replacement is suddenly a cost, not a revenue stream. The friction of the state, the bureaucracy, geopolitical wars, military supply lines consumes more energy than it produces.
Okay, but if the macro system of the state fails and you claim civilization cannot be optimized, then the only logical defense is extreme decentralization, total off-grid self-sufficiency.
You fail to grasp the eternal death of closed systems.
No. Listen, localized agriculture, closed-loop microgrids in the mountains. When a luxury liner sinks, a nearby rowboat becomes the strongest vehicle. It is entirely immune to the sinking of the larger ship.
While the rowboat survives the initial sinking of the luxury liner, total isolation fails inevitably unless the occupant is the ultimate engineer. The lone survivalist in the mountains is operating a closed thermodynamic system.
An individual or a small community operating their own closed loop, growing their own food, disconnected from global supply chains, survives and rebuilds.
Thermodynamics dictates that entropy will accumulate. Tools rust. Solar panels degrade at a rate of 0.5% per year. Inverters blow fuses. Soil depletes its nitrogen. A tooth becomes infected.
But we can adapt.
The rowboat has no industrial base to manufacture a new steel axe, mine silicon for replacement photovoltaics, or synthesize antibiotics. Compare the modern human to a golden retriever that has eaten premium dog food in air-conditioned rooms for generations, suddenly thrown into a pack of snow wolves in the mountains.
We are not domestic pets. Human beings possess deep ancestral knowledge. We understand fundamental mechanics, agriculture, and tool-making. A decentralized community can relearn basic metallurgy.
Your knowledge has evaporated. Modern humans do not possess foundational wisdom. We rely entirely on the external brain of the internet and hyper-specialized global supply chains.
We know how things work theoretically.
If you know the theoretical physics behind a microchip, that knowledge is utterly useless without a multi-billion-dollar fabrication plant, chemical precursors from 3 different continents, and ultra-pure water systems. The survivalist in the wood is merely burning through the scavenged remnants of the sunken luxury liner.
So what, we just give up?
Once the scavenged solar panels degrade and the forged steel knives lose their edge, the isolated individual lacks the thermodynamic capacity to smelt iron from raw ore. You lack the foundational energy return on investment, the EROI, to rebuild complexity from scratch.
Are you saying humanity is entirely doomed to biological annihilation? If the state fails and the survivalist fails, you are painting a picture of total extinction. We are just returning to the Stone Age?
Humans are extremely resilient hardware. We are not facing extinction, we are facing a brutal resizing. It is not a complete reset, but a severe downgrade.
A severe downgrade.
Humanity is like a Nokia flip phone. The latest iOS crashes, the screen goes black, the complex apps are dead, but the old flip phone somehow still works as a flashlight. It is a survival race between Nokia and iPhone.
I'm not sure I follow.
The iPhone is the high-maintenance modern citizen requiring constant connectivity, global shipping lanes, and massive continuous energy inputs. The Nokia is the human biological unit, capable of surviving on highly localized, low-density calories. We will not go extinct, but the current population of 8 billion people is artificially sustained by doping with oil.
Doping with oil? We've revolutionized agriculture through chemistry and human ingenuity. The Haber-Bosch process created synthetic fertilizers that allow us to feed billions by pulling nitrogen directly from the air.
It is the literal conversion of fossil fuels into edible calories. That is doping.
That is not doping. That is applied physical science expanding the carrying capacity of the planet.
The Haber-Bosch process requires immense heat and pressure generated almost entirely by burning natural gas to synthesize that ammonia. We have exhausted the easily accessible, highly concentrated resources.
We still have immense reserves.
In the 1930s, the energy return on investment for oil was 100 to 1. You expended 1 barrel of energy to extract 100 barrels. It was practically free energy, and it allowed us to build universities, hospitals, and a population of 8 billion.
And we still pull millions of barrels a day.
Today, we are fracking shale, injecting superheated water, and drilling miles beneath the ocean floor. The ratio is plummeting toward 10 to 1, and in some sectors 5 to 1. When the ratio drops to 1 to 1, the system stops.
But
it doesn't matter how much oil is left in the ground. If it takes a barrel of oil to pump a barrel of oil, the net energy is zero. A brutal resizing will occur because the Earth's physical carrying capacity without fossil fuel doping is a fraction of 8 billion.
Look, we still have proven crude oil reserves. We have vast natural gas fields. We should use these remaining resources to maintain our standard of living while we slowly transition.
That is the ultimate fatal error.
No, think about it. The AC in the car is comfortable. People will absolutely not accept a brutal downgrade or the dismantling of linear capitalism if they know resources still exist in the ground.
Oil is the final out-of-pocket fund required to complete the next circulation system. It is the raw, concentrated physical capital needed to build renewable infrastructure.
We must use what we have to cushion the transition, ensuring economic stability.
To build a single offshore wind turbine requires thousands of tons of steel, concrete, and copper. Smelting that steel requires metallurgical coal. Mining that copper requires diesel-powered excavators.
Exactly, which is why we need continuous funding and consumer spending to generate the corporate profits that fund the transition.
The transition to circular capitalism requires an immense upfront expenditure of high-density fossil energy. You are advocating for being in a gas-empty car in the desert and using your final drops of fuel to blast the AC in the radio.
If we violently disrupt the economy now, the financial system collapses immediately.
The AC in the car is comfortable, yes, but it ensures you will never reach the oasis. You are the Titanic crew chopping up the lifeboats for boiler firewood just to keep the passengers warm in the dining room for 1 more hour.
We need the economic engine running.
The economic engine you want to protect is physically destroying the materials required for the transition. It is the stranded luxury liner using the heavy oil meant for the lifeboat crane to spin a disco ball in the lounge.
People need stability to accept change.
Everyone on your sinking ship says, let's enjoy the last night extravagantly, keep the economy growing. And the next morning, when the water breaches the upper decks, they realize the disco ball's glow was pretty, but we should have used that energy to lower the boats.
You can't just forcefully strip away.
The current system is collapsing because it is a physical inevitability, dictated by the immutable laws of thermodynamics and declining energy returns. Transitioning to circular capitalism, designing systems for perpetual maintenance rather than extraction and disposal, is the single rational investment for survival.
It's too drastic. People won't.
The sharing of facts and physical reality is paramount. Humanity must stop wasting its final reserves of high-density energy trying to pry open the sunken ship's safe. The wealth inside that safe is an illusion of fiat currency and obsolete, disposable ownership. We must immediately divert all physical labor and remaining energy reserves to repairing the lifeboat. When falling off a cliff, the most useful thing is not prayer, but a parachute named circulation, woven while crude oil was still available.